Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Briefing Room podcast. Today, I'm going to explain to you guys why the war in Middle East affects our gas prices here in Canada. So why is the Middle East conflict raising oil prices in Canada? You went to fill up your car this week and did a double take. Gas prices jumped to almost 20 cents a liter, basically overnight. No warning, no explanation at the pump, just a higher number staring back at you while you're trying to fill your gas over there. So today, I'm going to break it down to you in plain English. No economics degree required. You don't need to be Mark Carney to understand this. So let's understand it first. So to understand it, you need to know about one stretch of water. It's called the Strait of Hormuz. Picture a narrow bottleneck between Iran and Oman. Only 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Roughly 1 in 5 barrels of oil shipped anywhere in the world passes through it, right? It's basically one of the world's most important energy corridors in the world, right? And energy is really important. Now, the US and Israel launched strikes on Iran. Iran retaliated by targeting ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz and attacking oil infrastructure across the region. The strait is now effectively shut down for normal traffic. Now, what is the result of this? About 1/5 of the world's crude oil and natural gas supply has been blocked. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iraq, and Kuwait, some of the biggest producers of oil on the planet, have paused their shipments of around 140 million barrels per day. Think of it like this, right? So imagine the 401 is shut down. Every truck carrying goods across Ontario is stuck because the 402 is shut down, so it can't go. So now you have your goods over here. So like everything else gets expensive in stores because supply can't move. That's exactly what's happening here, but with oil and on a global scale, so this is a basic principle of supply and demand. So what this looks like in Canada, the impact hit Canadians immediately within 1 week of the conflict starting. Average gas prices across Canada climbed to 150 cents per liter, up from 133 cents the week before. According to Gas Buddy, Brent crude, the international oil benchmark, this is standard, jumped over 10 barrels in just days. And analysts aren't saying it's stopping there. Dan McTeague, one of Canada's most cited gas price analysts, told CTV News he expects oil to climb around another $20 a barrel, which would mean roughly 20 more cents per liter at the pump, and up to 40 cents more for diesel. And diesel and petroleum matters for everything, right? Diesel matters because it's almost in everything you buy. Trucks, right? Freight, food delivery, all the diesel. So when diesel gets expensive, your groceries get expensive because those groceries get shipped in that truck. Heating gets expensive. Everything shipped to your door, like your Amazon package, gets expensive. And a fun fact, the way to make plastic is by using gasoline. The main ingredient to make plastic is oil. Crude oil, right? Okay, so now what is the big question, okay? So we have oil. So why do we care? Now, this is the biggest part people get confused about. Canada has oil, but why does it affect us, okay? And honestly, it's a fair question. Canada is the 4th largest oil producer in the world, right? And we have massive oil reserves in Alberta. So why are we paying more for oil here in Ontario, Milton, while there's a war in the Middle East in the Strait of Hormuz? So why is that affecting us? Meanwhile, we're peacefully here minding our own business because that's an unwanted war. Okay, so here's the key thing to understand. Oil is priced globally. It doesn't matter where the oil comes from, right? When you buy gas at the pump in Milton, the price is tied to the global market price, not the Alberta price, right? Not the Canadian price, one global price. So when the Strait of Hormuz gets shut down, the global supply of oil drops. So now think about it. Supply drops and we have the same demand, right? So we have to pay more for our oil, right? So including here, even though our oil never went anywhere near the Middle East, think of it like this, right? Think of it like wheat. Canada grows massive amounts of wheat, but what if there's a drought in Ukraine? The global supply drops, bread prices go up, same logic. Oil and gas extraction accounts for 5% of Canada's national GDP, and the sector supports around 445,000 direct and indirect jobs. In Alberta and Saskatchewan, Oil and gas makes up of 22 and 16% of both provinces' economies respectively. But in Ontario and Quebec, where 60% of Canadians actually live, oil is just a tiny slice of their economy. So yes, Alberta and Quebec and Saskatchewan benefits from the oil prices because more royalties equals more revenue for them. But for most Canadians like us, in Ontario, Quebec, BC, Atlantic Canada, the story is opposite. You pay for more, and you don't seem to understand why you're paying for more. Like what is the real reason, right? So think of it like this, right? This is what I struggle to understand, right? So let's say I have apples in my backyard, right? And let's say my backyard is a whole store. Why am I paying more for apples in my backyard when there's a drought for the apples in Middle East? Well, the real reason is I can either eat the apples in my backyard by myself or I can sell them, right? And if there's a apple drought everywhere and apples are suddenly worth $5 each, why would companies sell apples for $1 just because we're Canadian, right? The problem here is in Canada, the oil isn't nationalized, right? Private companies own these oil reserves, so they get to pick the prices. The government doesn't get to pick the prices here in Canada, even though the oil is in our backyard, right? So they sell the oil at whatever the global price is, right? Their businesses, they're not going to charge Canadians less for what they can get. So the price you pay at the pump reflects what the oil companies could get for the oil globally, right? So like you can pay if you want, they can sell for $1, but why would they sell to you for $1 when they can sell in Japan for $2, $3? So that's what's happening right now. With apples in your backyard, you could just keep them and not sell them globally. Canada could, in theory, regulate oil prices domestically. Some countries do this. They subsidize fuel for their own citizens. But Canada doesn't. Our oil is sold open on the global market, so the price follows the world price, not the Canadian price. Why does our Loonie not protect us anymore? Here's something that used to work in Canada and doesn't really anymore. When oil prices went up in the past, the Canadian dollar, the Loonie, would rise with it. A stronger loonie meant imports got cheaper, which helped offset the pain of expensive gas. It was built. It was a built-in shock absorber, right? That relationship has broken down. Investment in Canada's oil and gas sector fell 55% between 2014 and 2019, then dropped another 36% in 2020, right? According to McAven University. That collapse in investment meant less foreign money flowing into Canada, which used to push the dollar up. So think about it, right? A world global conflict meant we can sell our oil for a higher price in the international markets, right? But since we're getting good profits with our oil, international investors used to come in and invest in our oil, right? And that investment, those international dollars helped us offset the price of expensive oil. Now that's not happening anymore. On top of that, energy companies today are more likely to return the profits to shareholders through dividends, payouts, buyback, than rather invest in new Canadian projects. A lot of these shareholders are foreign investors, so money leaves Canada rather than getting reinvested here. The end result, when oil prices spike today, Canadians absorb more of the inflationary hit and get less of the currency cushion that used to soften the blow. We're more exposed than we were 15 years ago. We don't have a shield now. So here's the full picture. A conflict thousands of kilometers away shut down one narrow waterway that removed 1/5 of the global oil supply from the market. Global prices spiked because oil was priced globally. Canadians paid more at the pump, at the grocery store, on their heating bill. We produce our own oil, but that doesn't insulate us because the price is set by the world, not by us. And experts like Warren Mabee from Queen's University are clear. Even if the conflict ends tomorrow, prices don't come down overnight. Disruptions like this tend to stick around for a lot of time. The deeper question on this raises, and one that Canadian policymakers are going to have to answer, is how much longer we want our cost of living tied to what happens in the Persian Gulf. That's the conversation worth having. I'm Sai. This is the Briefing Room Podcast. See you next episode.